How exactly MBB consultants achieve high performance? So what is the specific process and steps and milestones to get there? It's a very common question I get from MBB consultants, and no surprise, right? Because let's say if you are an MBB consultant and you work at McKinsey, BCG, or Bain, and let's say you're a first year consultant and you're most likely work long hours, you work on weekends, sometimes you pull all-nighters, you work in a reactive mode, barely keeping up with your manager's demand. And at that state, it's very hard to imagine how it's possible. Is it even possible to achieve high performance? And I remember myself at that time. So this video is actually explaining step-by-step approach with the right coaching and with the right journey designed specifically for MBB consultants to achieve that high performance in the shortest and most effective way. For you to better understand, let's take a typical case. Let's say a consultant at McKinsey, BCG, or Bain. Oliver Wyman, Rollenberg, and Kearney are also relevant because they have similar type of work. And let's say average tenure 6 months. It's a lateral hire post-MBA, a consultant in their 30s, not having prior consulting background before joining these firms. Anything above this tenure, above 6 months, will be similar journey, but even faster and better, because by that time consultants accumulated more experience and more knowledge, so converting them to high performance will be a faster journey. So, and let's say at that time consultant joins my program. So what happens next? To think about achieving high performance, we can split journey in 2 main phases. The first phase I call stop the bleeding. So that's a phase where we focus on just eliminating simple mistakes. These mistakes stop creating unnecessary iterations. And then once you reduce the iterations, your overall productivity improves, and then you stop drowning in too much work. Okay, so that's kind of first step. Achieving this step will feel for you like you have like incredible acute pain, like let's say headache or toothache, and then you took painkillers, strong painkillers, and then the pain goes away, and then you feel more calm and then more confident and less stressed. Okay, it's very important phase, but it's only first phase, so you're not achieving high performance by that time. The second phase is, I call it how to win. So it's very important at this phase is to learn to produce outputs that will really surprise and impress your leaders. Okay, so not just to produce at the average level, not to produce what they ask you to do, but produce something more that they haven't even asked you to do. But it's very relevant, it's very important, it's very impactful. Okay, so something that an average consultant will not do. Don't worry about it. Sounds very unrealistic, but we'll get there. We will actually break it down, the process how to achieve to that level of performance. Okay, so in this journey, practical exercises in the coaching program is a very important. It is the main vehicle how you will learn to work, okay? Because theory, that's not enough. People are pretty bad at taking theory and applying in practice, especially in something that you haven't done before. That's very, very hard, especially in the field like MBB consulting, which is super complex with so many different variables and different expectations and unspoken rules. It's very hard, right? So the key in the coaching program is the practical application of that, and then only exercises can allow us to actually do that. So how does it work in practice? In my coaching program, we have 5 to 10 practical exercises. It depends on your needs and it depends on your specific journey, how many exercises you will need to do. But today we'll discuss average journey, and then in average journey, 5 exercises. That's generally enough for you to feel a very significant step change in your performance. And everything above that is just pushing performance to higher and higher level. So what are the exercises? Exercises are realistic consulting tasks that you would typically get from your manager or an AP. And I use my previous experience to design very realistic scenarios. And then they're also very diverse in nature, so we can test different things. Okay, so these exercises are carefully designed, so they are simple enough for you not to waste days and days on that. So it's like a very compact in time. Usually consultants spend 1 or 2 days doing these exercises. And then they are still complex enough for you to really struggle with these problems. And then I call it, I need to see how you sweat doing it. Because when you struggle, this is where you actually demonstrate your real skills and then consulting toolkit and problem-solving abilities. These exercises actually have been battle tested with dozens of consultants in my program. Now we have 90, in the moment of recording, I have 91 people in the program. And then they are very well calibrated, so they're actually doing their job very well. Every exercise is in its place, and then doing the right job for you in your journey. How do we run exercises? So for each exercise, we will have 2 one-on-one calls. It's very important. The first call will be you accepting task from me. I am an AP. We simulate, we role play, right? Like real situation. I am an AP, you're a consultant. I am giving you a task. Your job is to get more information from me, because by design, by the scenario, I give you only 10-20% of information that you need actually to be successful in this job. Why we spend the whole call, first call, just on accepting task? In my opinion and my experience, 50% of problems originate in the moment of accepting task for consultants. Because this is where consultants get context wrong, they don't understand what the expectations are, and as a result, they solve wrong problems, or they solve problems in the wrong way, or they solve problems in the obvious way, not what your leaders expected, and that's where you start this kind of a carousel of iterations, what we don't want, right? We want to avoid that. So that's why practicing accepting task is very important, and then in the moment of accepting task, you also learn how to do it in a way that you don't trigger and you don't frustrate and annoy your leaders. And then you ask them in a way that they're happy to do it, and they're happy to share all this information. And then in process, they actually feel like they contributed, you contributed, they feel that you're a very smart person because of that. So all of these techniques are given to you in the theory blog, but then it's very important to give you a few opportunities to practice to do it in the right way. Okay, and then once you finish that accepting task part, I will send you the best practice video of another consultant in the program who has done it in the best way. So you actually can see a peer consultant, maybe your tenure, maybe even from the same firm, doing this skill at the very best level. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, once you complete the slides, we'll have a feedback session, 101. In that feedback session, we will have 3 things, we will discuss three points. First one, we will do another simulation, another role play. Now, this time it's a problem-solving session, or CTM in BCG terms, right? It's when you and me, we discuss your findings. You present findings to an AP. And my job as an AP to ask different questions, sometimes challenging questions, to see how you actually behave in this impromptu discussion with partners. Because if you think about it, this is one of the most difficult situations for you, most dynamic situation, but also most common exposure to partners, when partners ask some random questions and then you need to kind of answer in the right way. Also, you need to look strong and then competent in that time. So this is where mostly consultants struggle, and there are certain techniques how to do it, and then basically we improve your exposure points with your leadership. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, I will show you the best output for this work, an incredible level of output that out of, let's say, 90 people who have done this one person who has done this, like an absolutely incredible level. So in this moment, probably for most of the consultants, that would be the first time they actually see what great looks like. Because in most of the situations, consultant work, every task they do is unique for them, and then they never know, because they also work in a flat teams, right? They don't see what others are doing, and they don't have any reports to them. They never see what great output looks like. The one that actually impress leaders, and then the one that actually allows them to win. And that's the first moment when you actually will see it. And then we have a discussion how to close that gap. And then actually you realize that closing that gap from your level to that perfect level, right? Benchmark level. It's a very technical thing. There's certain techniques that allows consultants to get there. Okay, and the third element on that call, we will discuss your personal feedback to your work, and then I write a detailed report. I comment on every slide that you do. I identify best practices that you realize, some good points, but also I comment on things that you could have improved. Okay, so that's kind of conclude the full cycle of the exercise in terms of calls. But then that's not the end. After we complete these calls, I send you the outputs of all of the slides that of other people who have done this before you in this exercise. And then I ask you to review them, to learn from them. So basically what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to teach you like an AI model, because you have a neural network in your head. And then I try to do an enforced training, basically feeding into your brain a marked data set, where I personally, every single slide, marked this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, with explanations. Why is that? Okay, so what happens if you analyze this set, and because you internalized the problem, before and then you struggled with that, every single slide becomes accessible to you in terms of learnings. Okay, and then what we get from that is that you improve your pattern recognition. You become stronger in understanding what is really great slide, what is, let's say, average slide, what is the above average. So you start seeing the nuances and differences. That's what your managers and partners have, because they worked with so many slides before. They just kind of developed a more nuanced, more subtle understanding of the differences. That's why for you it's hard to keep up with them, because they are just more experienced than you. That gap we are trying to close with just kind of building your pattern recognition. And in one of 2-3 runs like that, you catch up very quickly. You start feeling, okay, this is a great slide, this is a bad slide. Okay, so this is just one cycle, and then for every exercise we repeat this cycle again and again. 2 calls, and then analyzing the outputs of other people. So what do we get from that? So if you think about it, this is quality learning, right? Because if you think about it at your job, what you do day to day, you make slides, your manager comments on your slides, say, hey, your slides are not good, redo it this way. So you redo it, but your manager doesn't have time to explain why they're not good, what mistakes happened to lead to this output in this way, what actions upstream of your process, way before you created slides, led to this mistake. You didn't understand the expectation because you didn't ask questions, or when you were solving the problem, you made some incorrect logical conclusions, or when you showed the information, you showed in not in the right way. So there are different reasons why it happens. I call them root causes, right, in your upstream of your process. And then if your managers and partners are not identifying it for you, doing it yourself is very hard. It's very hard because you just don't know, right? You just don't know what's happening. You don't know what great process looks like. So that quality learning doesn't happen. What happens is that day in day, you just keep repeating this, focusing on symptoms, and then root causes remain untreated for many, many months. And that's why for you, learning is very hard. It's also a painful process. You kind of get embarrassed. You get slapped for your mistakes. You damage your reputation. It's not great, right? So that's why in this just a few exercises, because we have a high quality exercise, we identify, we break down, we isolate skills, we show you the best practices. So with this quality learning, we are trying to accelerate your pace, okay? Not just to catch up to your peers, but also get really ahead of them. And every exercise has different topic or different skill that I want to see. For example, first one is it's kind of warm up, very simple exercise. You need to find some information, do a research, and then create some meaningful slides based on that research. The skill that we are learning there is to take information and show it in an insightful way, right? In a clear narrative with clear so what and implications. That's number one. Number two is, I call it analytical problem solving. So you are given a problem, a fairly complex problem with multiple components. They are interconnected. And then you also need to do some manipulations with them and calculations, right? There will be some very simple Excel modeling that you need to do. And then based on different numbers that you get, you need to assemble it in a certain way that makes sense as an answer, that actually solve the problem. In the third one is conceptual problem solving. You are given a very complex subject that is very hard to understand. There's so much information, but then you need to find a way to simplify that, tell a story, and then show that not all the information at once, but find this mental concept of how you will frame it so your clients can understand it, right? So different skills will show your problem solving and slide making communication from different angles that will allow me to identify where the gaps in your toolkit. Okay, so that's only first phase. Typically in these 3 exercises, consultants demonstrate their bottlenecks, and then I provide the skills, how to fix them, and then now we have a clarity to what to work on. Okay, but practically speaking, that's not enough, because usually what consultants have is that they identified, let's say they have problem with structuring, okay? But structuring is really a skill that takes time to build, okay? Or let's say top-down communication. So I say, okay, top-down communication can be improved. Okay, good to know. But top-down communication takes a lot of time to actually rewire your brain to communicate in a top-down way. Same with issue analysis, issue trees, and there are different skills that can be your bottlenecks, and then they are not fixed in one day. They're not fixed in just one or two or three exercises, right? So for that one, I developed online exercises, okay, interactive exercises, specifically compartmentalized or specifically isolated skills where consultants make most of the mistakes, okay, or the most difficult skills. And then because of AI technology, I developed multiple scenarios for you to actually practice this one skill that we identified. Let's say top-down communications, like I don't know, 40 scenarios, 50 scenarios, structuring, 50 scenarios that you can practice, issue analysis, another 5, 10, whatever. So you can practice these skills on your own because we identified this as your like a bottleneck or weakest point. Okay, so let me quickly show it to you so you actually can visualize how it looks. Okay, here you can see this is the a page of one of our most decorated, most active, most successful consultant in the program. And his tenure is just 1+5, so he's still pretty young, I would say, in consulting terms. And then basically what we have is the full journey that he went through when he joined, and then rapid exercises. This is what I call, these are online exercises. So basically these exercises are designed to close the specific bottlenecks and gaps. And then practical exercises, these are like what I described to you, 1, 2, 3, and then these ones I will explain a little bit later what that means, right? So now I want to discuss these online exercises that allows this person to work on his specific skills. So, and we have different skills like top-down communication, right? So he completed 3 exercises. His score is 69 and the best score is 84. Formatting scenes, this is specifically just on formatting issues. If you have some issues with formatting, then you do them, and then you hopefully you fix that. The best score is 100. His score is 93. Then analytical challenges. These ones are there is certain analytical challenge, one slide challenge, and then you basically need to solve it in a sequential way. Here we just replicate the right process, how you make slides from planning, solving, and then communicating. Structuring diagnosis. This is structuring exercise. Issue analysis. This is when you have a problem, you need to analyze what the issue is, how to solve it. It's analog of issue tree analysis. Structuring build, this is a little bit, again, structuring exercise, but it's a little bit like a pro version, because structuring, apparently from practical experience working with consultants, very basic skill, but most common skill where consultants struggle. And then this is the most common bottleneck for most of the consultants. So here it's a little bit more complex exercise, and consultants actually practice building structures, the best structures. Then we have logical reasoning, how you think and how you make conclusions. And implicit assumption is one that kind of makes sure that when you make arguments and conclusions, you are not have implicit assumption that can jeopardize your thinking. And then problem solving reframes are different scenarios when there is some elegant, non-obvious solution built into that, and then while you're doing, you need to find it on your own. Okay, so different skills that consultants train. And then if you can see on the screen, hopefully I will hide the names of people before I show it to you. These are kind of different activities across many people doing this in my program. And then you see there are different patterns and different skills people work on depending on your personal needs. And then different also levels and different skills, different scores. So that's what people do in the program, because that allows them to improve their performance. And the way I like to think about it, and that's how I position these online exercises, this is like a mental gym for consultants, right? So they can have, let's say, 30 minutes per day, 1 hour per day. They are happy to invest into the learning. They can go and they can practice whatever skills they need, okay? And then if you practice them frequent enough, you will improve, right? So especially in fundamental skills like structuring, top-down communications, these are very important ones, because in day-to-day life, in your work, in on-the-job learning, you're actually not able to practice them in a clean way. So that's why it takes you so much time to actually learn these basic skills. But that's not enough. That's not enough for you to achieve high performance, right? So that's what I call completion of the phase 1. Stop the bleeding. If you do all the things in complex, right? The 3 exercises that I described to you with slide making, and then online exercises, in a period of 1 or 2 months, you will remove most of your mistakes, most of your silly mistakes. You strengthen your process. You stop doing silly attention to detail mistakes. that by itself for some people is already a big improvement in performance. They feel liberated, they feel more confident, less stressed, less painful. Okay, but that's not enough. That's not how you will become a high performer. You will achieve higher rating. You will get promoted to NEM. That's not enough, right? That's where the second phase is important. And the second phase is ability to win. Okay, but what does it mean? So for you to actually get this high performance, you need to impress people, right, with your work. It's very hard to understand what it is until you actually experience it yourself. Okay, and that means that, let's say you're solving some problem, and then everyone expects this solution, right, of like typical standard approach and etc. etc. You do analysis, and in the process of analysis, you realize that it's actually wrong approach. We need to do something completely different. And it's actually the way you think about it is not just different, but it's much better, more impactful, less costly, more effective. And then you come to your partner and produce the output, not just say it, but you produce the output and say, hey, this is what I think. And then when your partner looks at this and instantly realizes that, oh, wow, this is great output. This is great analysis. Who created this? You created this? Oh my God, Rus, this is, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen other consultants do it. This is amazing. And in that moment, something emotional happens. They start seeing you in a different way. They start seeing you as a thinker. They start seeing you as the problem solver, not just executioner. They just can't help themselves to start respecting you, treating you differently, value you, and then that's when dynamic changes, right? People start treating you more positively. And then if you do these wins frequent enough, the whole environment around you changes. Now you have a different reputation. You become darling of the office. Everyone loves you, etc., etc. And you probably see these people around you, right? They are high performance, distinctive consultants. Partners want to be their friends, and then they have no problems with staffing. Projects come to them. They don't chase projects. And you can see it, like the demonstration of that. But often consultants don't know how to get to that level. Okay? So that's what we're going to learn. And then the key trick here is to learn to solve problems in non-trivial way. And this one is a little bit a combination of art and science. There is a lot of science kind of structured technical elements, how you do it. And whatever we've built in the first phase, we're contributing to that. So you're technically more strong. You can do a lot of things now. But also there is a little bit of intuition, a little bit of ambition to do that, a little bit of courage to do that. And then basically when all of these things start clicking, you start achieving these small wins. First small wins and then big wins later, right? Once you start achieving big wins and then you feel the result of that, it kind of becomes addictive. And then after that, you start chasing them again and again. And that's how you keep momentum going, okay? But how to train that? That's an interesting challenge, right? Coaching challenge. That's where I have the second set of exercises. I call them essay exercises, okay? So by that time, we are not doing slides anymore, because I already know people already can do slides. Slides not the problem. Problem solving is a problem, right? So the right level of problem solving, that's what we want to see, and that's what we want to improve. So basically how we work at the time, I give a prompt, a problem, a scenario, very well designed, again, from my past experience. By designing these problems, the solution is not trivial, okay? If they just follow the trivial step, they will be just managing symptoms and become a big mess. But then if they find the real root causes and patterns, they can solve it in one move, and everything will be solved beautifully, right? With no mess, okay? And then it's a real situation that really happens. So it's not kind of theoretical invented situation. So these are real cases, okay? And we do it in a safe format because I want consultants to write their thoughts in a very structured way, in a systematic way, the way I teach them how to do it, right? So start with issue analysis. What is the issue? We break it down to components. We analyze why these issues happen. What are the root causes of that? Then I ask them to kind of look at the synthesize. What is happening? Do we see any patterns? Do we see any root causes? Then based on that, they write their assumptions, their arguments, their conclusions, and then only after that solutions, right? There is certain flow they need to follow. Why it's important is that first, it teaches consultants to think in the very systematic, organized way, not randomly. But also for me as a coach, I can see the thinking process, and then I can see where exactly mistakes originate. Okay? Oh, where did you get this assumption? This assumption has no basis. Oh, you see this here, you structured the issue, but that structuring was not sharp. And that's why you failed to see the problem clearly. And here you can see you identified sub-issue, and then you listed other different sub-issues, but you failed to recognize that other sub-issues are symptoms and this sub-issue is root cause. And then if you kind of address that one root cause, not all of the issues, you solve the problem in an elegant way. And that allows to actually show consultants how thinking works, where problems originate, what the technical mistakes happen in the thinking process. And then when they see the solution or they come up to the solution themselves, it's so insightful and it's so impressive they actually can feel that the feeling, what their partners will feel if they solve the problem in an elegant way, not in a typical way, obvious way, right? So these essay exercises actually teach multiple things. Again, technical way to achieve to that reframe or elegant solution, how to think in the organized way, right? See where mistakes originate, feel what it's like to win and what is actually winning solution looks like. So all of that is actually creates this right behavior and right technique, how to see that in real life and how to achieve that in real life, right? And what we typically see is that after, if all the steps are followed properly and then consultants close the gap and then clean the toolkit and stop the bleeding and then started working on these winning exercises, then I start hearing reports. Oh, Rus, we had this problem. I solved it in a different way. Partners was ecstatic and then clients were ecstatic and then now I have a high rating. And then I start hearing this positive feedback and positive situations and wins. And then after that is just scoring of these wins, finding the opportunities, investing time into them, and then solving them and then kind of presenting to your leaders. And then the more you start doing that, the more high performance you get. And then typically per project, you just need 1 or 2 big wins, not a lot. And then people will like, oh, wow, that guy or that lady are different. Okay, so we need to work with them more because we want consultants like that in our team. Okay, so that's how the full cycle works. We have more exercises after that, so that's not the end of the journey. Then we start working on EM toolkit, how to start the project in the right way, so you actually take strategic initiatives from the first meetings, so you actually now become high-performing EM or PL right away. There is certain techniques there. We start working on how to position you for the promotion very well, how to mobilize your support group so they are actually all enthusiastic and supportive for the moment of promotion. They actually say the right things. How do you staff yourself in the right way so you don't go to bad projects, so you can escape bad projects and then you can position yourself for best projects. All of that things we also do, right? But what I explained to you is a very technical, very step-by-step approach, how to get from struggling, barely keeping up with the pace, to high-performing, superstar, darling of the office consultant, right? So that's exactly. Journey typically takes 3 to 6 months to get there, depending on different starting points, but it's very possible. It's achievable. A lot of consultants in my program achieve that with hard work, with dedication to learning. That you can do as well. Okay, that's it for today's video. It was a bit longer than typical one, more technical. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Ask your questions in the comments if you have. Thank you for watching. See you next time.